Emily Parker had always been small for her age. At 8 years old, she moved through life like a quiet shadow, unnoticed by most adults, yet painfully aware of everything around her. That Thursday afternoon, the late autumn sun cast long shadows across Cedar Ridge's only gas station. A cold wind tugged at her pink jacket, making her shiver as she clutched her small backpack straps. The station was nearly empty. A solitary clerk rang up a single customer while a pair of teenagers loitered near the soda fridge. Everything seemed ordinary, but Emily knew it was. She had been practicing a secret signal for months, a signal meant to save her life if the day ever came she needed help. She paused at the edge of the cracked concrete lot, scanning the empty space behind the pumps. Her eyes, wide and fearful, flicked to a man leaning against a dark gray SUV parked at the far end. His hoodie was pulled low, shadowing his face, but Emily could see enough: calloused hands, sharp eyes, and the faint twitch of a dangerous smirk. Her stomach twisted into knots. This wasn't just a stranger. Something about him felt wrong, visceral, terrifying. Her throat tightened. She could feel the beginnings of tears, but she swallowed them, knowing she couldn't make a sound. Emily's fingers moved instinctively. Thumb to palm, 3 rapid taps, the signal she had learned in school safety drills, the one meant to call for help when words weren't safe. A subtle movement that might go unnoticed by everyone else, but not by Max. Max, Officer Daniels' K-9 partner, was no ordinary dog. The German Shepherd had served with the Cedar Ridge Police Department for nearly 6 years. He had tracked fugitives, sniffed out narcotics, and saved lives more times than anyone could count. He could sense fear, deception, and danger on a level humans never could. And right at that moment, his ears perked sharply, his posture stiffening. From a few blocks away, he could smell the tension in Emily's small body, the undercurrent of fear radiating from her, and the malice emanating from the man nearby. Emily didn't know how she knew he was dangerous. She didn't know why she felt it in her bones. All she knew was that she needed help, and that Max had to see it too. The man noticed her sudden hesitation. He straightened and took a deliberate step toward her. His shoes clicked against the concrete. Emily's heart slammed against her ribcage. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but her feet felt frozen. The wind whipped strands of hair across her face, and she wiped them away, careful not to blink too visibly, careful not to draw attention. Max was closer now, pulling slightly on his leash as Officer Daniels walked along the lot. Daniels, mid-shift and stopping for a cup of coffee, was casual, relaxed, but Max was not. The dog's body was taut, tail low and rigid, hackles slightly raised. His gaze locked on Emily. Then, as if receiving a silent command, his ears swiveled toward the man. Max growled, a low, warning rumble that made the few remaining customers at the station glance over nervously. Emily's heart raced. The man's eyes flicked up, meeting hers. She froze. He smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes, one that made her stomach churn. Something about it was calculated, patient, like a predator circling prey. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He simply began to close the distance between them, slow, deliberate steps. Emily wanted to scream, but her throat had turned to stone. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her backpack. Another subtle tap of her thumb against her palm, this time a double signal, reinforcing the first, an urgent plea hidden in plain sight. Max reacted immediately. The dog strained against his harness, barking sharply, his body language clear. "Stay back, danger here." Officer Daniels looked down in surprise, realizing something was wrong. He hadn't seen the man, hadn't registered Emily's fear, but Max had. The dog barked again, louder, commanding attention, his gaze fixed, unblinking, on the figure approaching Emily. Emily took a small step backward, trying to put distance between herself and the man, but her sneakers scraped against the uneven pavement. She swallowed the lump in her throat and forced herself to move slowly, cautiously, making sure to keep Max between herself and the stranger. Her heart pounded in her ears. The wind whistled across the parking lot, carrying faint scents of gasoline and decaying leaves, but nothing could mask the unmistakable stench of danger that emanated from the man. The man paused briefly, cocking his head as if sensing Max's presence. "Hey there," he said softly, his voice smooth, too smooth, the kind of voice that makes your skin crawl without realizing why. "Don't be scared." Emily didn't move. She couldn't. Her small body trembled and Max growled again, louder, a deep, primal warning. He took a small step forward, putting himself squarely between the girl and the man. Emily saw the muscles in his legs tense, the fur along his back bristling slightly. She felt a shiver of relief. Max was here. Max was ready. Max was not going to let anything happen to her. Officer Daniels finally arrived, jogging across the lot, his coffee forgotten. "Max, stay, wait," he shouted, but the dog ignored him, fixated entirely on the approaching man. Daniels' eyes widened. He could see Emily's fear, but he also saw Max's uncanny focus. There was a tension in the air that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Something wasn't right. Something about this man set off every instinct in Max that had ever saved lives before. Emily's breaths came in quick, shallow bursts. The man stopped a few feet from her, hands in his hoodie pockets, and smiled again. "You look familiar," he said, voice teasing, darkly casual. "We've met before, haven't we?" Emily's stomach dropped. She didn't respond. She couldn't. Instead, she gave another subtle tap to her palm, a final silent plea, urgent now. Max growled, low and threatening, moving slightly forward, hackles raised fully. The man's smile faltered for the first time, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. And then, without warning, Max lunged. Not recklessly, but with precision, instinct, and intent. He barked and growled, positioning himself between Emily and the man. Emily stumbled backward, clutching her backpack, eyes wide with terror and awe. She had never seen a dog act like this, so protective, so aware, so fearless. The man cursed under his breath and took a half step back. Max's gaze never wavered. Emily's small hand pressed instinctively against the back of the dog's neck. She could feel his warmth, his strength, his determination. She whispered a tiny, shaky "thank you," though no one else could hear. Max's ears twitched. He was listening. He was watching. And he knew something the humans hadn't yet realized. Emily looked at Officer Daniels, who was now fully aware of the situation, and nodded slightly. He understood. This was no ordinary encounter. Emily had sent the signal. Max had received it. And now, whatever threat lurked in that man's hoodie, whatever danger hung in the quiet shadows of Cedar Ridge, was about to be confronted head-on. The wind gusted across the gas station lot, rustling leaves and lifting the hood of the man's jacket. He clenched his fists. Emily's stomach knotted with terror, and Max let out a low, warning growl that vibrated in the air, carrying an almost human sense of urgency. Every instinct, every hair on the back of the dog's neck, screamed that this man was dangerous, that Emily's life depended on what happened next. And then, almost in slow motion, the man's eyes narrowed and a shadow crossed his face. His hand twitched inside his hoodie pocket, and a chill ran down Emily's spine. Max stiffened, barking furiously now, a blur of black and tan power and controlled aggression. Officer Daniels shouted, stepping forward, but Max was already moving with a speed that seemed impossible for his size. Emily pressed herself to the ground behind Max, eyes wide, heart hammering. She whispered to herself, a prayer or perhaps a promise, "Please protect me." Max's growl deepened. The man took another step closer. Then everything seemed to freeze. The air was electric. The wind stopped. Leaves hung suspended midair. Emily held her breath. Officer Daniels' heart raced. And in that tense moment, Max made a decision that would shock everyone, a decision that would change Emily's life forever. Suspense ending. Max lunged forward, teeth bared, barking with a ferocity no human could ignore, directly at the man's chest. The man stumbled backward, eyes wide, and then his hand moved suddenly inside his hoodie. The moment Max lunged, the man in the gray hoodie froze, his hand inching toward the inside of his jacket. Emily's stomach flipped. She crouched lower, hugging herself, wishing she could disappear into the cracked asphalt of the gas station. Max growled, a deep, throaty sound that vibrated through his chest and into the bones of everyone nearby. The dog's fur bristled, his entire body coiled like a spring ready to strike. Officer Daniels sprinted forward, shouting commands, but Max didn't wait. He was already in motion, his instincts sharper and faster than human reflexes. The man's hand emerged, revealing a small, jagged pocket knife. Its steel glinted in the afternoon sun, catching Emily's eyes and sending a shiver down her spine. Even though it was a basic folding knife, in that moment it felt like a weapon forged in nightmares. Max reacted instantly, barking with explosive force and lunging forward, knocking the man backward. The knife skidded across the concrete, spinning away from the man's reach. Emily gasped audibly, pressing her palms over her mouth. Her knees wobbled, but she stayed low, trusting Max. Officer Daniels caught up, arriving just in time to see Max pinning the man's chest, his powerful jaws pressing against the hoodie, not biting dangerously but restraining. The man struggled, hissing through clenched teeth, eyes wild with panic. "Get him off me," he spat. Daniels grabbed Max's leash and tried to pull him back, but the dog's focus was unbreakable. He had read every micro-expression, every twitch in the man's body. Emily realized something chilling. Max wasn't just protecting her. He was anticipating the man's next move, and he wasn't wrong to. The man scrambled backward, pushing Max with frantic energy, trying to free himself. Max pivoted with flawless precision, sidestepping the shove, and barked again, teeth flashing in the sun. Emily could see the raw power in the dog, the trained precision in his stance, and she felt a mix of awe and fear. She had learned to trust Max from afar, from stories in school, from Officer Daniels' words, but seeing him in action, so alive, so focused, was something else entirely. She whispered softly, almost a prayer, "Please, don't let him hurt anyone." The man's desperation escalated. He pulled the hood further over his face and lunged toward Emily, who instinctively stepped backward. Max reacted in an instant, intercepting the man and pushing him sideways, his body a living shield. Emily felt the wind of the movement brush her cheek and stumbled, but the dog's presence was a protective wall she could feel. She realized that, without a doubt, Max would take her place if he had to. Daniels finally regained control of the leash, yelling at the man to stop. "Step away, now." But the man wasn't listening. He backed toward the corner of the gas station, where a chain-link fence separated the lot from a narrow alley behind the building. Emily's pulse raced. She knew from watching crime shows that alleyways were dangerous traps, and in that instant she understood why Max had been so tense from the beginning. The man bolted. With surprising speed, he darted toward the alley, glancing back only once. Max reacted immediately, dragging Daniels along as he sprinted after the man. Emily's tiny legs carried her forward, her sneakers squeaking against the pavement. She could hear Max barking, his voice echoing off the buildings, a battle cry that pierced the air. Officer Daniels ran alongside her, but he kept one eye on Max and one on the fleeing figure. The alley was narrow, littered with discarded cardboard boxes, broken bottles, and puddles of water that reflected the dim afternoon light. Emily's chest heaved as she tried to keep up. Max barreled forward, weaving through obstacles with unmatched agility. Daniels shouted, "Hold on, Emily. Stay behind me." She clutched the side of his jacket, barely able to breathe, but her eyes never left Max. The man turned suddenly, brandishing a metal pipe he had grabbed from the dumpster at the alley's edge. His wild eyes locked on Max. "Get him off me, you stupid dog," he shouted, swinging the pipe with violent force. Max dodged, agile and quick, his movements a blur of training and instinct. Daniels fired a warning shot into the air, but the man didn't flinch. He was desperate, reckless, and dangerous. Emily froze as the man's next swing sent the pipe clanging against a metal barrel. Sparks flew, and a loud metallic screech echoed down the alley. Max growled and lunged again, this time knocking the pipe from the man's hands. The clang reverberated through the alley, making Emily jump and stumble into a pile of cardboard. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The man scrambled backward, his face twisted with fury and panic. Daniels finally caught up, putting himself between Emily and the man. "Freeze! "Don't move," he barked, gun raised, but the man ignored him. He turned and sprinted further down the alley toward the rear exit that led to the street. Emily knew the area well. It was usually empty, quiet, a place kids sometimes explored on skateboards, but today it was a potential death trap. Max didn't hesitate. Despite a small graze on his side from the metal pipe, he raced after the man, dragging Daniels along as the officer tried to keep pace. Emily ran too, clutching the hem of Daniels' jacket. Her vision blurred with tears and adrenaline. The man disappeared around a corner. Emily's chest tightened with fear. She whispered to herself, "Please, Max, don't let him get away." As they turned the corner, they saw him again, this time crossing a narrow street that cut through a deserted part of town. A car came barreling down the street, brakes squealing. The man froze, his eyes widening as he realized the danger. Max, undeterred, lunged, knocking him sideways. The man rolled, narrowly avoiding the oncoming vehicle. Emily screamed, clutching Daniel's arm, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her stomach churned, but relief mixed with terror as she saw Max still moving, still relentless, still protecting her. The street erupted into chaos. The car skidded to a stop, honking wildly. Bystanders screamed and ducked for cover. Emily wanted to cover her ears, but she couldn't tear her eyes from Max, who had now pinned the man on the ground. His growl was low, warning, dangerous, but precise. Emily could see the man's panic, his attempts to escape, and Max's unwavering focus. Daniels finally reached them, pulling Max back slightly while keeping a firm grip on his leash. "Stay, stay," he commanded. The man struggled beneath Max's weight, breathing hard, eyes wild. Emily dropped to her knees, hugging herself, feeling both fear and awe. Max's presence was more comforting than anything else. She whispered, "Good boy, thank you." But the moment wasn't over. The man, still defiant, reached again inside his hoodie. Emily's stomach dropped. She wanted to scream, but her voice was gone. Max growled even louder, teeth flashing, body tense. Daniels shouted a command, gun raised, ready to act. Emily pressed herself to the ground behind them, trembling. Every instinct screamed that this moment would decide everything, life or death, safety or disaster. And then, in an instant, the man froze. Max had read him perfectly. The knife, or whatever he was reaching for, was now within inches of his body, but Max didn't flinch. He barked once, sharply, warning, commanding, predicting every possible move. The man's eyes widened, fear finally overtaking fury. He realized that for the first time he was no longer in control. Emily swallowed hard, holding her breath. She watched Max, her hero, her guardian, her protector. She felt the weight of the situation, the danger, the power, the courage. And then, as if sensing that Emily needed a final reassurance, Max lowered his stance slightly, just enough to remind her he was there, ready, vigilant. Suspense ending. The man suddenly lunged again, this time not at Max, not at Emily, but toward the far side of the street. Emily's heart froze. Max barked, lunged forward, and the world seemed to hold its breath. What the man was running toward, and what Max would do next, would change everything. The man darted toward the far side of the street, a narrow alleyway that cut between a row of abandoned warehouses. Emily's stomach twisted with terror. She could see him now, only a few feet away, his hoodie flapping in the wind as he sprinted, clutching something tightly to his chest. Max was right behind him, muscles rippling with every bound, moving with a speed and precision that defied human perception. Officer Daniels sprinted beside them, shouting, but his words barely reached the man, or Max, who was fully focused on his target. Emily's knees threatened to buckle under her fear and exhaustion. She had never run so far, never felt her heart pound so violently. Her small legs struggled to keep pace, but the adrenaline pumping through her veins kept her moving. She could see Max gaining ground, each step precise, each leap calculated. The man glanced over his shoulder, realizing too late that the dog was closing in faster than any human could hope to outrun. His eyes widened in panic, and he stumbled over a loose piece of asphalt, barely catching himself. Max lunged. The dog didn't bite recklessly, he struck with purpose. His powerful body collided with the man's side, knocking him off balance. The man yelped in pain, clutching his side as he crashed against a stack of discarded wooden pallets. Emily gasped, fear and relief colliding in her chest. She wanted to run forward to hug Max, but Daniels held her back firmly. "Stay," he commanded, his voice trembling with urgency. "He's not done yet." The man rolled to the ground, but in his panic he brandished a small crowbar he had grabbed from the pallets. His movements were frantic, uncoordinated but dangerous. Max didn't hesitate. He lunged again, dodging the swinging metal with trained precision. The dog's teeth didn't bite the man's flesh. Instead, they clamped onto his jacket, dragging him back and pinning him to the ground. Emily watched, wide-eyed, as Max held the man in place like a living force field, restraining him with sheer strength and determination. Daniels arrived, panting heavily, gun raised but cautious. Backup sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing closer with every second. The man struggled violently beneath Max, yanking and twisting, but the dog's grip never faltered. Emily could see the fear in the man's eyes now, the realization that he was no longer in control. Max had anticipated every movement, countered every desperate attempt to escape. Emily swallowed hard, tears streaming down her face. She whispered under her breath, "You're amazing, Max. Please don't let him hurt anyone." Suddenly, the man made a sharp, desperate lunge toward Emily. Her stomach dropped. Max barked, lunging forward just in time to intercept him. The man's hand, still clutching the crowbar, swung wildly, but Max twisted midair, avoiding the strike and knocking the weapon away. The clang echoed through the alley, a loud metallic warning. Emily pressed herself against the brick wall, eyes wide, barely breathing. She could feel the dog's power vibrating through the air, and for a moment she wished she could disappear completely. Daniels moved in closer, trying to subdue the man with his firearm. "Stay down, hands where I can see them," he shouted. The man's panic was now fully evident, his breathing ragged, sweat glistening on his forehead. Max maintained his grip, growling low, a warning that resonated deep in Emily's chest. She had never felt such intensity, such raw energy, and yet she knew without doubt that Max was in complete control. He was the protector. She was safe because he refused to let the man win. The man, realizing he couldn't overpower the dog, made a split-second decision. He twisted violently and bolted toward the back of the warehouse, trying to put distance between himself and Max. Emily's heart leapt into her throat. "No, Max," she screamed, her voice cracking. The dog hesitated for a split second, just enough for the man to gain a few precious feet. But then Max took off, limping slightly from the earlier scrape, but undeterred. Every muscle in his body coiled and released, propelling him forward with unstoppable force. Emily ran as fast as she could, her small legs pumping, sneakers squeaking on the cracked concrete. Daniels was close behind, shouting over his shoulder, "Don't lose him, he's still dangerous." Emily nodded, tears blurring her vision, her eyes fixed on Max as he closed in on the man. The alley narrowed here, the walls on either side lined with broken windows and rusted metal sheets. The man skidded to a halt, realizing he had nowhere left to go. His eyes darted wildly, calculating, panicked. Max slowed just slightly as he approached, his stance low and deliberate. The man swung a brick he had picked up from the ground, desperate, reckless. Max dodged, teeth snapping inches from the man's arm. Emily's stomach lurched. She wanted to scream, to run, to do anything, but she was frozen in place, her hands pressed to her chest. Max barked once, then lunged again, knocking the brick away and pinning the man to the ground. The impact rattled the alley, and the man let out a strangled yell. Daniels arrived, gun trained steadily on the man. Backup officers had begun to arrive at the scene, their sirens cutting through the tension in the alley. The man struggled violently, but Max remained perfectly positioned, muscles taut, jaw locked, eyes blazing with focus. Emily could see the sweat beading on the dog's fur, the slight tremor from the earlier scrape, but he refused to back down. He had committed fully to protecting her, and nothing could stop him. Emily finally crouched fully to the ground, hugging her knees, tears streaming down her face. Her heart raced uncontrollably. She whispered, barely audible, thank you, Max." The dog seemed to hear her, tilting his head briefly, then returning his focus to the man beneath him. Max's growl vibrated through the alley, low and menacing, a sound that communicated pure authority. Emily realized in that moment that the dog was more than a pet or a partner. He was a living force of justice, instinct and courage. The man, realizing he was trapped and unable to escape, made a last-ditch effort. He twisted violently, trying to roll away from Max, but the dog anticipated the move, pivoting seamlessly and maintaining his grip. Emily's pulse throbbed in her temples. She could see the desperation in the man's eyes, his frustration, his fear. Max had completely neutralized him without ever delivering a harmful bite. Every movement was calculated, precise, professional. Daniels finally reached them, pressing his hand against Max's back to steady him, keeping the dog's powerful body between the officers and the man. "It's okay, Max. We've got him now," he said, voice calm but firm. Max's ears flicked, eyes still locked on the man, refusing to relax fully. Emily watched the scene unfold, feeling a mix of awe, fear, and relief. She had witnessed something extraordinary, a dog acting with courage, intelligence, and instinct beyond anything she could have imagined. Then the man shifted suddenly, attempting to reach into a side pocket of his hoodie. Emily's stomach dropped. Max reacted instantly, growling louder than ever, his teeth flashing, his body coiled like a spring. Daniels shouted, stepping forward, but Max's reaction was faster. He pinned the man's hand beneath his paw, preventing him from retrieving whatever he had hidden. The alley fell momentarily silent, broken only by the man's panicked breathing and Max's warning growls. Emily held her breath. Her knees were shaking so hard that she had to grip the wall for support. Every instinct screamed that something could go horribly wrong in an instant, but Max refused to allow it. He had understood the danger, intercepted it, and neutralized it with perfect timing. Emily's lips trembled as she whispered again, "Good boy, please be okay." Suspense ending. The man's eyes widened, filled with a terror that made Emily's blood run cold. Then, with a sudden, desperate movement, he shoved against Max, sending the dog skidding back and disappeared into the shadows of a side door Emily hadn't noticed before. Max barked furiously, lunging forward, but the man had vanished. Emily's heart leapt into her throat. Where had he gone? And what would Max do next? The shadows of the narrow alley seemed to close in around Emily as she stumbled forward, her small legs trembling from exhaustion and fear. Max barked sharply, his eyes scanning every inch of the alley, ears twitching, muscles taut. Officer Daniels was right behind her, his gun drawn, heart hammering in his chest. The man in the hoodie had vanished into the darkness, but Max could still smell him. Every faint trace of sweat, fear, and desperation painted a vivid trail for the dog's extraordinary senses. Emily clutched the sides of her jacket, feeling the cold sweat slicking her palms. Her small body shook as the wind cut down the alley, whipping loose trash and crumpled cardboard across the cracked pavement. Max's growls vibrated in her chest, low and warning, a primal echo of the danger they all faced. Daniels signaled for Emily to stay back, keeping one hand on her shoulder while the other rested near his firearm. Emily nodded, though she felt a tug at her chest, an overwhelming need to be closer to Max, her protector. From the shadows, a figure emerged. The man had reappeared, gripping a broken wooden board he had torn from a dumpster. His movements were frantic, uncoordinated but deliberate. Every fiber of his body screamed panic, and yet he was still dangerous. "Stay back," Daniels shouted, stepping forward, gun trained steadily on the man. Max growled, low and guttural, warning the man that he was outmatched, not by humans but by instinct, by precision, by sheer unbreakable will. The man swung the board violently, narrowly missing Max. Sparks flew as the wood scraped along a rusted metal fence, the screech echoing down the alley. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She pressed herself against the brick wall, wishing she could vanish completely, her wide eyes glued to the struggle unfolding before her. Max didn't flinch. Every movement he made was precise, anticipating the man's swings, countering with strength and agility. Daniels advanced cautiously, shouting commands, but the man's desperation was escalating. His eyes darted frantically, and for the first time a flicker of real fear appeared in his gaze. Emily noticed it immediately, a tiny spark of hope mixing with her terror. Max, still between Daniels and the man, adjusted his stance slightly, body low, ears pinned just enough to communicate readiness. Every muscle in the dog's body was coiled, a living spring of power and control. Emily's heart pounded as the man lunged again, swinging the board toward Max. The dog pivoted with flawless precision, avoiding the strike while simultaneously using his weight to push the man backward. The clang of wood against metal and the screech of a falling trash bin echoed through the alley. Emily's stomach lurched. She wanted to scream, but her throat had gone dry. She could see the man's frustration, his rising panic, his desperate attempts to regain control, and she felt a mixture of terror and awe. The man's breathing grew ragged. Sweat glistened across his forehead, his hoodie clinging damply to his skin. Max's growl deepened, reverberating through the narrow walls of the alley. Emily could feel it in her chest, vibrating through her bones. She realized with a shiver of relief and fear combined that Max wasn't just reacting. He was anticipating, predicting every movement, neutralizing the danger before it could reach her. In a sudden, reckless move, the man swung the board horizontally, trying to hit Max from the side. The dog dodged with lightning reflexes, then lunged forward, his powerful body slamming into the man with enough force to knock him off balance. The man stumbled backward, hitting the edge of a dumpster. Emily gasped audibly, her small hands flying to her mouth. Daniels shouted, "Max, hold him," as he stepped closer, careful not to get between the dog and the man's desperate strikes. The man scrambled to his feet, shaking his head, wild-eyed. He spun the board in his hands like a weapon of last resort, sweat and adrenaline making his movements erratic. Max advanced with caution, growling steadily, positioning himself between the man and Emily with perfect precision. Emily's chest heaved. She felt the tension in every movement, the electricity of imminent danger. She whispered softly to herself, "Please, don't let him hurt anyone." Then, in a sudden burst of motion, the man hurled the board to the side and made a desperate dash toward the alley's narrow exit, the only path leading to the main street. Emily froze, fear clutching her like icy fingers. She knew the street well. Cars often passed by without warning, and a fast-moving vehicle could turn this desperate chase into tragedy. Max reacted instantly, dragging Daniels along as the officer sprinted after them. Emily ran behind, clutching Daniels' jacket, her sneakers slipping on the cracked pavement. The man bolted straight into the path of a speeding delivery van. Emily screamed, but the driver managed to swerve just in time, tires screeching and sending a cloud of dust into the air. Max lunged forward, knocking the man to the ground just as the van roared past, missing them by mere inches. Emily's knees buckled and she dropped to the ground, heart racing uncontrollably. Daniels pulled her up, steadying her. "He's okay. Max has him," he said, though his voice shook. Emily's tears flowed freely, mixing relief with fear. Max had sustained a small scrape from the man's earlier attack, but he didn't slow down. His focus remained unwavering, eyes locked on the man as he struggled to rise. The man attempted to push Max off, but the dog's strength and training made escape impossible. Every attempt was met with precise, controlled force. Emily felt the raw power and intelligence in Max, the kind that made her feel both awe and security. He wasn't just a dog, he was a protector, a hero, a guardian in fur. Emily's mother had arrived, rushing through the lot at full speed, her hands trembling as she hugged her daughter tightly. Emily felt warmth and fear clash inside her as she clung to her mother, glancing over her shoulder at Max, who remained vigilant, growling low, ready to strike at any sudden movement from the man. Daniels kept his gun trained, backup officers finally arriving to block all exits. The alley had become a cage, and Max had cornered the man with perfect precision. The man made one last desperate move, rolling toward a dumpster, but Max anticipated it, twisting in mid-step, blocking every avenue of escape. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She could see every detail, the man's sweat-drenched face, the panic in his eyes, the trembling in his hands. Max's stance was immovable, a living wall of protection. Daniel stepped forward cautiously, ready to secure the man while ensuring Emily and her mother remained safe. The man's breathing became erratic, his wild movements slowing as panic overtook desperation. Emily realized in that moment that Max had done more than stop a stranger. He had saved her life, anticipated danger, and neutralized it before it could touch her. Emily pressed herself closer to her mother, tears streaming, whispering, "Thank you, Max, thank you." Max's eyes flicked toward Emily briefly, as if acknowledging her words, then returned to his unwavering focus on the man beneath him. Then, without warning, the man let out a strangled yell and made one final, frantic dash toward a small side door of the warehouse that Emily hadn't noticed before. Max barked furiously, lunging forward with a speed that made Emily's heart leap into her throat. The man disappeared through the door. Max skidded to a halt at the threshold, growling, ears pinned, body tense and ready to follow. Emily froze, her mind racing. Where had he gone? What awaited them inside? And would Max be able to stop him before it was too late? Suspense ending. Max growled again, low and warning, as the door creaked open, revealing only darkness beyond. Emily's stomach dropped. Every instinct screamed that something inside that warehouse was waiting, a danger far greater than she had imagined, and Max was about to face it head-on. The warehouse loomed ahead like a gaping mouth swallowing the alley in darkness. Its corrugated metal walls were rusted and dented, windows shattered, allowing shards of light to cut through the shadows in thin, eerie beams. Max paused at the threshold, growling low, ears swiveling, muscles coiled and ready. Officer Daniels crouched beside him, flashlight in hand, gun raised, heart racing. Emily clung to her mother's arm outside the doorway, eyes wide with fear and anticipation. She could hear Max's low rumble vibrating through the floor, a warning that danger lay inside, just beyond the visible. The man had vanished into the depths of the warehouse, but Max had followed his scent, every fiber of the dog's body focused and alert. Dust swirled in the faint light as he stepped forward, paused silent on the concrete floor, body low, tail stiff. Officer Daniels followed closely, flashlight cutting through the darkness in narrow arcs, revealing piles of discarded machinery, broken crates, and dangling chains. Every step made the floorboards creak, sending a shiver down Emily's spine. She pressed herself closer to her mother, wishing she could be invisible, wishing she could do something to help. Inside, the man moved with desperate cunning. He had abandoned the wooden board, but his hands clawed at anything he could grab: metal pipes, a broken chair, a coil of wire, anything to fight back. Sweat dripped down his forehead, his breathing ragged, his eyes darting at every movement of shadow and light. Max detected him instantly, barking sharply, then advancing with caution. The man swung a metal pipe in his hands, striking a stack of crates. The clatter echoed through the cavernous warehouse like gunfire. Emily gasped. Officer Daniels shouted, "Max, stay, wait!" But the dog didn't falter. Every step, every motion was calculated. Max dodged a swinging pipe, pivoted, and forced the man backward with sheer force of presence. The fugitive stumbled, crashing against a dangling chain that rattled like a warning bell. Dust fell from above, and Max barked again, warning the man to stay down, stay still, stay where Max could control him. Emily's stomach lurched. Her knees shook. She knew that in this game of instincts and survival, one wrong move could be catastrophic. The man's panic escalated. He yanked at a pile of old crates, sending them tumbling in Max's direction. The dog dodged flawlessly, twisting his body midair, landing with a thud on the cold concrete. Officer Daniels advanced cautiously, trying to contain the situation while keeping Emily safe. The warehouse smelled of rust, dust, and something faintly chemical, an acrid tang that made Emily cough. She clutched her mother's arm, unable to tear her eyes from the unfolding drama. Max growled, lunging forward to intercept another desperate lunge from the man. The fugitive attempted to swing the metal pipe again, but Max twisted with lightning reflexes, knocking the weapon aside and pinning the man's arm with his powerful jaw, not biting, but controlling, immobilizing. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. She pressed herself against the wall, her small hands gripping her mother's coat as tears ran down her face. Max's eyes were focused, unblinking, filled with intelligence and determination. The man rolled, trying to break free, but Max anticipated every move. Each time the fugitive attempted to push forward, twist, or strike, Max was there, countering, controlling, neutralizing. Emily whispered a prayer, her voice trembling. "Please, don't let him hurt anyone, please." Max's low growl seemed to respond, a reminder that he had her covered, that he was unstoppable, and that he was entirely committed to protecting her. Suddenly, the man spotted a narrow exit at the far end of the warehouse, a gap between two massive metal crates leading to an open loading dock. His eyes widened and desperation surged. He sprinted toward it, ignoring everything else. Max reacted instantly, lunging after him, dragging Officer Daniels along. Emily could hear the sound of boots pounding against concrete, the low growl of Max, and the frantic, ragged breathing of the man. Her chest felt tight, every nerve on edge. The man barreled toward the exit, but a stack of broken machinery lay in his path. He stumbled, barely regaining his balance. Max closed in, teeth flashing, body coiled for the final interception. Emily's stomach lurched violently as the man teetered on the edge of danger, inches from disaster. One wrong step could send him crashing into metal or falling from the loading dock onto the asphalt below. Max barked, a sharp, explosive sound, warning, controlling, guiding the man's movement even as Officer Daniels shouted, "Stop! Don't move!" Emily's eyes widened as Max lunged forward with perfect precision. The dog's paw pinned the man's chest to the ground, while his powerful body restricted every motion. The man's crowbar skidded across the concrete out of reach. He gasped, trying to twist, to push, to strike, but Max was unstoppable. Emily's small hands trembled as she whispered, "Good boy, Max, good boy." Her heart raced. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Relief and fear collided in a single, overwhelming surge of emotion. The man's wild eyes met Max's unwavering gaze. He realized he could no longer escape, could no longer control the situation. His breathing became shallow, ragged. Max maintained his grip, muscles coiled, teeth visible but not biting, a living wall of authority and protection. Daniels moved incautiously, ready to secure the man while keeping Emily safe outside the warehouse doorway. Emily pressed herself closer to her mother, trembling, feeling every beat of Max's powerful heart through his tense, vibrating body. Then the man made a sudden, desperate movement, attempting to roll free from Max's pin. Emily's stomach dropped. She screamed silently in her mind, hoping Max would anticipate it, and he did. With lightning reflexes, the dog twisted, blocking the escape, teeth flashing, muscles taut, growling low and menacing. The man froze, realizing he was trapped. Emily's pulse raced uncontrollably, but she felt a surge of awe at Max's intelligence, bravery, and loyalty. Max's focus never wavered. Even as the man panted, eyes wide with terror, he remained vigilant, scanning the warehouse for any new threats. Emily noticed a faint tremor along Max's side, a small scrape from earlier. But the dog refused to slow, refused to back down, refused to allow the man a single inch of advantage. Emily's heart surged with gratitude and relief. She whispered, "Thank you, Max, thank you." But the moment of triumph was fleeting. The man's gaze darted to a pile of metal crates stacked precariously nearby. With a sudden, frantic shove, he sent the top crate tumbling toward Max. Emily gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Daniels shouted, "Watch out!" The crate crashed to the floor with a deafening clang, narrowly missing Max, who leapt aside with perfect agility. The man tried to seize the moment and bolt, but Max lunged immediately, his body striking the fugitive and holding him down once more. Emily's heart was in her throat. Her legs shook so violently she could barely stand. Her mother wrapped her arms around her, whispering reassurances, but Emily barely heard. Her eyes were locked on Max, who had become more than a dog in that moment. He was a hero, a guardian, a protector, a living force of courage and instinct. Every nerve in his body was trained, precise, and alive with determination. Suspense ending. The man, pinned but desperate, whispered a chilling, broken warning. "You don't understand, I'm not alone." Emily froze, blood running cold. Max growled, ears pinned, body coiled. Officer Daniels tightened his grip on the leash. Something in the man's words hinted at danger far greater than any of them had imagined, and the warehouse seemed to grow darker, heavier, filled with secrets waiting to be revealed. The man's words echoed through the cavernous warehouse, sending a chill down Emily's spine. "You don't understand. I'm not alone." His voice trembled, but there was a sinister undertone that made every hair on the back of her neck stand on end. Max growled, low and guttural, ears pinned, muscles coiled like springs. Every instinct in the dog screamed that there was more danger hidden in the shadows, and Emily knew immediately that this was no longer just about the man in the hoodie. Officer Daniels tightened his grip on Max's leash while keeping his gun trained on the pinned fugitive. "What do you mean? Who's with you?" he demanded, his voice echoing off the rusted metal walls. The man's eyes flicked nervously toward the darkness beyond the crates and machinery. He swallowed hard, then muttered, "They're here, watching, waiting." Emily's chest constricted, terror rising like a wave. She pressed herself closer to her mother, her tiny hands gripping her jacket. She could feel Max vibrating with tension, every fiber of his body responding to the invisible threat. The warehouse seemed to hold its breath. Shadows shifted as if alive, the broken windows casting jagged beams of light across the dusty floor. Emily squinted, trying to make out shapes in the gloom. She saw nothing, yet every instinct told her that the man's warning wasn't a lie. Max's growl deepened, vibrating through the floor and into her bones. His eyes darted from shadow to shadow, ears swiveling with unnatural precision. He knew something she couldn't see. He always did. The man tried to roll, attempting to free himself from Max's unwavering grip. "Don't let them get me," he shouted, panic rising in his voice. Max barked sharply, lunging just enough to keep him pinned without causing harm. Officer Daniels shouted, "Hold still, don't move." The fugitive froze, trembling under Max's immense strength. Emily's heart raced uncontrollably. She realized that while Max had stopped the immediate threat, the man's words hinted at danger far greater than she could imagine. Suddenly, a faint rustling came from the shadows near the far wall. Emily's stomach dropped. She pressed herself against the concrete floor, eyes wide. The sound grew louder, metal scraping against metal, a soft whisper of movement, but nothing was visible. Max's growl intensified, his hackles rising fully. He stepped slightly forward, body tense, ears pinned, tail rigid. Officer Daniels mirrored his movements, flashlight sweeping the darkness with meticulous precision. Emily's mother wrapped her arms around her daughter, whispering, "Stay calm, stay calm." But Emily could feel the terror rising inside her chest like a storm. A figure emerged from behind a stack of pallets, but not a person Emily recognized. It was a man, tall, wearing a dark jacket that blended seamlessly into the shadows. His eyes glinted in the faint light, calculating, watching. Emily's blood ran cold. Max growled even louder, a deep, warning sound that shook the concrete floor. The intruder raised his hand slowly, then made a subtle gesture toward the pinned man. The fugitive in the hoodie froze. I told you," he stammered, panic flooding his face. Emily's pulse hammered. Officer Daniels barked a warning. "Step back, now." The shadowy man didn't move forward immediately. Instead, he slowly circled the warehouse, every movement deliberate, every step echoing ominously. Emily's eyes darted to Max, who was perfectly poised, unflinching, eyes locked on the new figure. The dog knew. He had sensed the danger before it became tangible. The shadowy figure's voice cut through the air, calm and chilling. "You should have stayed out of this, officer, and your little friend here." Emily froze. Her stomach dropped. The man in the hoodie whimpered beneath Max's weight, trembling, eyes darting between the two threats. Max growled, low and unrelenting, each sound vibrating through Emily's chest. He shifted slightly, placing himself fully between Emily, her mother, and the two men. Emily realized with awe and fear that Max was assessing, predicting, and preparing for whatever came next. Suddenly, a loud metallic crash echoed from the far corner of the warehouse. Emily screamed, pressing herself closer to her mother. Max bolted toward the noise, dragging Daniels along, barking furiously. Emily could barely follow, her legs trembling from fear and exhaustion. The shadowy man moved quickly, slipping into the shadows near the crates. The man in the hoodie tried to scramble free, but Max pinned him expertly, ensuring he couldn't interfere. Emily watched, heart racing, every second stretched into eternity. The warehouse had become a maze of shadows and metal, each creak and clatter heightening the tension. Emily's mind raced. What was lurking in the dark? Who were these people and why had they targeted her, Max and Daniels? Max barked again, a sharp, commanding bark that echoed through the space. Emily realized that he wasn't just protecting her, he was communicating. His body, his growl, his every movement was a warning. Something terrible was about to happen if they weren't ready. A sudden flash of movement caught Emily's eye. Another figure emerged, this one crouched low, holding what looked like a crowbar. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to run, to hide, but Max was already between them. Officer Daniels raised his gun, flashlight sweeping the area. "Stay back, don't move," he shouted, voice firm but trembling with urgency. Max's growl deepened, vibrating through the warehouse, warning everyone in earshot that any wrong move would be met with immediate consequences. The shadowy intruders paused, sizing up Max and Daniels. Emily's heart raced. She had never seen Max so alert, so intense, so focused. The dog's eyes locked on the nearest intruder, then flicked to the one crouching behind crates. Every instinct in Emily screamed that Max was aware of something she couldn't see, some danger lurking beyond the visible, something they hadn't accounted for yet. Emily pressed herself to the floor, clutching her mother's arm tightly. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Max's low growl continued, a sound that vibrated through her chest and into her bones. The tension was unbearable, each second stretching longer than the last. The intruders seemed to hesitate, uncertain, as if they had underestimated the dog's awareness and capability. Emily realized that Max wasn't just a dog. He was a guardian, a protector with intelligence and instincts beyond comprehension. Suddenly, without warning, one of the intruders lunged forward, crowbar raised. Max reacted instantly, his body a blur of motion. He intercepted the attack, knocking the intruder sideways, teeth flashing but not biting, using sheer force and weight to neutralize the threat. Daniels fired a warning shot into the ceiling, shattering a glass panel. The intruders froze, eyes wide with panic. Emily's stomach lurched as the warehouse echoed with shouts, barks, and the metallic clang of chaos. The man in the hoodie whimpered beneath Max's weight. Emily pressed herself closer to her mother, whispering, "Good boy, please, don't let them hurt anyone." Max growled in response, ears pinned, eyes blazing, ready to react to any sudden move. Emily realized the danger was far from over. The intruders were calculating, dangerous, and unpredictable. Max would have to act again, and fast. Suspense ending. Just as the intruders seemed to regroup, a loud metallic creak came from above, a shadow shifting on the raftered ceiling. Emily's heart froze. Max's ears twitched, hackles rising fully. Officer Daniels looked up, gun raised. Emily's stomach dropped. Someone or something was watching them from above, and it was about to make a move. Emily's heart slammed against her ribcage as the metallic creak echoed above. Shadows danced along the warehouse rafters, elongated and sinister in the flickering beams of Officer Daniels' flashlight. Emily pressed herself tighter against her mother, who murmured reassurances that did little to quell the terror swelling inside her. Max's low, guttural growl deepened, vibrating through the concrete floor, through her legs, through her very chest. His body was a taut spring, every muscle coiled, ready to leap into action. He had sensed the unseen danger above before Emily could even glimpse it. Officer Daniels' eyes flicked upward, scanning the raftered ceiling. "Emily, stay down. Max, stay close," he barked, but Max's attention was fixed above. The intruders, now clearly two, had split tactics. One crouched behind crates, ready to rush them, while the other lurked in the rafters, potentially wielding a pipe or heavy object as a weapon. The warehouse seemed to shrink around Emily, every shadow a threat, every sound amplified into a pulse of terror. Then it happened. A crate, dislodged from the upper rafters, hurtled toward the ground with a deafening crash. Emily screamed, ducking instinctively as shards of wood splintered in all directions. Max lunged with flawless timing, intercepting the falling debris and forcing it sideways. his massive body absorbing the impact with minimal movement. Emily's eyes widened. The dog had just saved her life again in a blur of muscle and reflex. Officer Daniels. Gunshots shattered the tense silence, sending another echo ricocheting off the metal walls. The man in the hoodie, still pinned beneath Max's steady weight, whimpered, They'll get you, you don't understand." His words were frantic, laced with terror, yet eerily cryptic. Emily's stomach twisted at the thought that more danger might be lurking unseen, just waiting to strike. Max growled low, a sound that seemed to warn both the intruders and the man beneath him. "I see you. I will not allow harm." From above, the shadow moved again. This time, a chain swung toward Max with terrifying speed, aiming to knock him off balance or injure him. Max twisted midair, landing solidly on the concrete, perfectly agile, eyes blazing with determination. Officer Daniels fired another warning shot, but the intruders were agile, calculating, and relentless. Emily felt herself trembling, clutching her mother's arm with every ounce of her small strength. She had never been so close to true, raw danger, and yet she trusted Max completely. The intruder on the floor, seeing his comrade's attempt from above, lunged toward the pinned man, hopping to free him. Max reacted immediately, shifting his weight and pinning the man more firmly while simultaneously intercepting the intruder with his powerful shoulder. The two collided in a flurry of limbs and motion. Emily's heart hammered so violently she could feel it in her throat. Every instinct screamed that a single misstep could turn this into disaster. Officer Daniels moved quickly, commanding the intruders to freeze. "Hands where I can see them, now." His voice was authoritative but strained. The intruders hesitated, giving Max the briefest window to react. With precise timing, he twisted, knocked one intruder off balance, and lunged again toward the raftered shadow. Emily's stomach lurched. She knew Max was taking risks for all of them, his own body in the line of danger to protect her. Suddenly, from the rafters, a chain clanged violently as the intruder attempted a daring descent, aiming directly at Max. The dog pivoted, dodging with fluid grace, and leapt forward, his powerful legs propelling him toward the intruder, teeth flashing, but not biting dangerously. Instead, he used his momentum to pin the intruder's arm against a stack of crates. The shadow above froze for a moment, realizing the dog's awareness and skill were unmatched. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She pressed herself against her mother, trying to remain unseen. Tears ran down her cheeks, half from fear, half from awe at Max's courage. The dog was more than a protector now. He was a force of nature, a guardian with instincts sharper than any weapon the intruders could wield. Emily whispered, almost in disbelief, You're amazing. Max, please don't let them hurt anyone." Max's low growl seemed to respond, warning all in the warehouse, "Do not underestimate me." The man in the hoodie, finally realizing his companion's failure, started pleading incoherently. I told you they'd stop us." His voice cracked, filled with panic and desperation. Max's jaws shifted slightly, reminding him he remained pinned, unable to interfere. Officer Daniels took a step forward, flashlight sweeping over the rafters, gun steady, ready to intervene if Max's calculated aggression wasn't enough. Emily could feel her pulse in her ears, every second stretching into eternity. Then, with terrifying speed, the shadowed intruder leapt from the rafters, aiming for Max and Daniels simultaneously. Emily screamed, her hands gripping her mother's coat as if her life depended on it. Max reacted in an instant, a blur of brown and black fur. He intercepted the descending figure with explosive precision, twisting midair, landing solidly, teeth and paws immobilizing the intruder without harming him lethally. The warehouse erupted into a cacophony of metal clanging, guttural growls, shouted commands, and Emily's terrified cries. Emily's heart nearly stopped. She could see Max's muscles ripple with effort, his precision unwavering. The intruder struggled, but Max held him firmly, growling low, eyes blazing, warning of imminent consequences. Officer Daniels moved closer cautiously, flashlight illuminating the shadowy intruder's face. A young man, eyes wide with fear, pale with adrenaline. Emily realized something terrifying. The These weren't just random attackers. They were coordinated, dangerous, and had planned their ambush meticulously. Max had saved them from certain harm once again. Emily's mother held her close, whispering, "He's protecting us, he's protecting you." Emily nodded, tears streaming freely, marveling at the dog's bravery. Max shifted slightly, scanning the rafters again. The first shadow had disappeared, leaving only the young intruder beneath Max's unwavering control. Daniels called for backup, his voice shaking slightly. The intruder stopped struggling, realizing any further attempt to escape would be futile. Max remained poised, vigilant, every muscle ready for another move if necessary. Emily pressed herself to the ground, heart racing uncontrollably. The warehouse smelled of sweat, dust, and adrenaline. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound amplified into a threat. Max's growl continued, a low, vibrating warning. Emily knew instinctively that while the immediate danger was neutralized, the threat in the shadows, and the man's ominous words, hinted at something far greater, something lurking just beyond perception. Then the man in the hoodie whispered again, barely audible, "You don't understand, they'll come back, and next time." His words trailed off, filled with dread. Emily's stomach dropped. Max growled louder, warning of future threats. Officer Daniels tightened his grip on the leash, flashlight sweeping every inch of the warehouse. Emily's eyes darted nervously, heart pounding. She realized with growing fear that the battle wasn't over. Danger was still very much alive in the shadows, and Max would have to face it head-on once more. Suspense ending. From the far corner of the warehouse, a faint, deliberate sound echoed, metal scraping against concrete. Emily's breath caught. Max stiffened instantly, ears pinned, hackles raised. Officer Daniels signaled for everyone to stay alert. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. The shadows had not revealed all their secrets. Someone or something was still in the warehouse, and Max was about to confront it. The metallic scrape echoed again, louder this time, bouncing off the rusted walls and rafters. Emily's stomach dropped into her chest. She pressed herself against her mother, trembling as Max's growl deepened, vibrating through the concrete beneath her. Officer Daniels tightened his grip on Max's leash, flashlight cutting through the darkness in narrow beams. Emily's heart raced uncontrollably, every instinct screaming that the unseen intruder was preparing to strike. Max's eyes flicked between shadows, muscles coiled, body a taut spring ready to explode. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the far corner, dropping from the rafters with terrifying speed. Emily gasped as she glimpsed the intruder's face. A young man, desperate, adrenaline-charged, eyes wild with panic. In his hands was a long metal pipe, aimed directly at Max. The dog didn't hesitate. He lunged with explosive precision, twisting midair to intercept the attack. The pipe clanged harmlessly against the concrete floor, Max's powerful body sliding under it to push the intruder backward. Officer Daniels fired a warning shot into the ceiling, shattering a glass panel above. The intruder froze, eyes wide with fear, realizing he had miscalculated. Max growled low, menacing, eyes locked on the intruder's every twitch. Emily could barely breathe, tears streaming down her face as she watched her protector, her guardian, her hero, neutralize danger with unmatched precision. Every movement Max made was deliberate, controlled, and instinctively protective. The man in the hoodie, still pinned beneath Max's steady weight, whimpered. They'll get you, you don't understand." His words sent a chill down Emily's spine. Max's growl didn't falter, holding him firmly while keeping the attention on the new threat. Emily's pulse thundered. She had never felt so close to pure danger, and yet she knew with absolute certainty that Max would not allow harm to come to her. The intruder on the floor made a desperate lunge, attempting to seize the man in the hoodie. Max reacted instantly, pivoting with fluid grace, teeth flashing but not biting lethally. He pinned the intruder's arm against a stack of crates with immense force. Emily's heart raced as she pressed herself against the wall, clinging to her mother. Her small hands trembled uncontrollably, but her gaze remained fixed on Max, her eyes filled with awe and gratitude. Officer Daniels moved closer cautiously, flashlight illuminating the scene. "Stay down, don't move," he commanded. The intruders hesitated, eyes wide with fear. Max maintained his grip, muscles taut, growling low, controlling every motion. Emily could feel the intensity of his presence, a living shield between her and the danger around them. Her chest heaved with a mixture of relief, terror, and admiration. Max was more than a dog, he was a guardian, a hero in fur. From the far end of the warehouse, another shadow shifted. Emily froze. Her pulse quickened as Max's ears twitched, his growl rising in warning. The intruder in the rafters had not moved, or perhaps had hidden entirely, waiting for a chance to strike. Emily pressed herself flat against the wall, heart hammering, her small fingers clutching her mother's jacket. Officer Daniels' flashlight swept over the shadows, revealing nothing, yet the tension was palpable. Then, with a sudden, desperate scream, the intruder lunged from behind a stack of crates. Emily screamed, her voice lost in the chaos. Max reacted instantaneously. With unmatched speed, he leapt forward, intercepting the intruder mid-strike. The pipe clattered to the floor as Max pinned him with perfect precision, teeth visible but careful, controlled, non-lethal. Officer Daniels moved in, securing both intruders with handcuffs and backing them away from Max and Emily. Emily's tears fell freely as she ran to Max, hugging him tightly. You saved us again," she whispered, burying her face in his fur. Max leaned into her, tail wagging slightly, eyes softening for a brief moment. Officer Daniels approached, smiling despite the exhaustion and tension. "You did amazing, Max. Both of you," he said, looking at Emily and then the dog. Emily's mother wrapped her arms around both her daughter and Max, relief washing over her in waves. The man in the hoodie, finally subdued and cuffed, muttered incoherently as officers read him his rights. Emily could see fear in his eyes, the fear of a plan unraveling, the fear of Max, the fear of the law catching up to him. Max stayed alert, body tense, eyes scanning for any remaining threat. Emily realized in that moment that Max wasn't just a dog. He was a force of instinct, intelligence, and courage that could face danger and protect those he loved without hesitation. Emily's mother hugged her tighter. "You're safe now," she whispered. Emily nodded, her voice barely audible. "Thanks to him, Max. He saved us." Max wagged his tail slightly, letting Emily bury her face in his fur. Officer Daniels patted the dog's head. "You're a hero, Max, that's all I can say." Emily's heart swelled with pride, gratitude, and awe. She knew that without Max, the night could have ended in tragedy. As the police officers secured the warehouse, Emily and her mother walked outside into the cold night air. The flashing lights of patrol cars reflected off the walls, painting the alley in red and blue. Emily paused, looking back at Max. He sat calmly, ears twitching, eyes scanning the perimeter, never letting his guard down. Emily felt a surge of love and admiration. She had given Max the secret rescue signal earlier, the tiny gesture no one else had noticed, and he had responded with courage beyond measure. Emily knelt beside Max, gently patting his head. "You're the bravest dog in the world," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. Max nuzzled her hand, calm and proud. Officer Daniels approached, flashlight in hand, giving a nod of respect. "That little girl trained you well," he said with a chuckle, though his voice carried deep emotion. Emily smiled faintly through tears. She knew the bond she shared with Max was unbreakable. The night was finally quiet. The intruders were in custody, the warehouse secured, and Emily safe. Her mother held her close, whispering reassurances, while Emily stroked Max's fur, feeling the warmth and strength beneath her fingers. Officer Daniels smiled, shaking his head in amazement. "I've never seen a K9 act like that, and I've been in the force for 20 years. Emily's chest swelled with pride. Max had not only protected her life, he had inspired everyone who witnessed his bravery. As they walked home, Emily's small hand rested on Max's back. The streetlights cast long shadows on the sidewalk, but she felt safe. Max walked beside her, alert yet calm, a silent guardian. She realized that the secret signal she had given him, the tiny, almost imperceptible gesture, had changed everything. It had saved lives. And in that moment, Emily understood the depth of Max's loyalty, courage, and love. The night air was crisp, and Emily breathed deeply, feeling a mixture of exhaustion, relief, and triumph. She looked up at the sky, stars shimmering above, and whispered softly, "Thank you, Max, for everything." The dog glanced at her, eyes soft, almost knowing. He nudged her gently, and Emily smiled through tears. They had faced danger, darkness, and fear, and together they had prevailed. Emotional resolution. Emily knew this night would stay with her forever. Max had shown her the meaning of courage, loyalty, and love. Officer Daniels had witnessed firsthand a dog whose instincts and intelligence saved lives. Emily's mother held her tight, pride and relief radiating from every gesture. The city might never know the full story, but Emily knew Max had been her hero, her protector, her friend, and her guardian angel in fur. Final suspenseful note. Even as they walked away, Emily could feel Max's vigilance. He remained alert, ears twitching, eyes scanning. Danger might have passed for now, but in the life of a hero like Max, the city was never truly safe, and his courage would always be ready.